Hello, everybody, and welcome to Politics of the Empire, episode 13, presented by theempiremedia.com. I'm your host, Dorf. We are going to be Adam Hernandez list tonight. He is actually currently here in studio, but he's about to step out. So it's just going to be me and Josh, which is who you see on screen here. Wave hi to everybody.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, and I am not in South Bend, Indiana.
No, you're not. You're right here in studio.
I am live in studio here in Michigan, so cool. I'm here for work this week, and figured I could stop in. And I will actually, on the Wednesday night Empire Media sports stuff, I will actually be here in studio as well tomorrow night. So
quite a treat.
Yay!
For the world of Empire Media, for the Empire of Empire Media.
Yeah.
Dorf back in town.
All right. Anyway, tonight's topic is universal basic income. I guess I am taking the pro side here. Josh will be taking the against UBI. I don't claim to be a subject matter expert. Josh, you explained to me here before the show you deliberately didn't look into things to try and have a fresh perspective on it.
No, since you announced this as the topic, I have not looked into it much. I know what I knew before. I know how I feel about it, but I'm anxious to hear more info on it, and I, not looking forward to like a combative, podcast either. I just want to, know what's up and kind of go from there. So
all right,
just
so let's
start.
Let's start by defining UBI. So as I understand it, it's the concept of as a replacement for both welfare and tax schemes, and not an entire replacement for a tax scheme, but a replacement for welfare and lower tax bracket tax schemes. People would be given, the Andrew Yang example is $1,000 a month per adult, no strings attached, no ifs, ands, or buts. You reach 18 years old, you get $1,000 a month per month until you die. So what that would then replace would be everything in, I believe in Andrew Yang's proposal, if I'm wrong here, I'm sorry, I haven't read it in detail in a while. It would replace pretty much everything but some portions of Social Security and Medicaid.
Okay. Social Security, obviously, it would need something separate to replace it too, because it's known as a contract with the people or whatever. And
the idea is, it would replace like pretty much everything from, any sort of welfare program, whether it's food, direct assistance, housing, all of that. It would then instead put money directly in the hands of individuals, instead of giving it as a directed benefit that you're only allowed to spend this $500 a month that we're giving you on housing, or we think you only need $120 this month for food.
Mm-hmm. Here's a bridge card. You can take it to certain locations and only buy X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Instead, you give people the $1,000. Everybody. Here's the thing that would make it ultimately like non-discriminatory. Bill Gates would qualify for it. You and I would qualify for it. Unemployed 18-year-old high school dropout qualifies for it. Everybody gets it. Now, there's nothing saying that Bill Gates would have to accept his $12,000 a year. He could not cash the checks, or there could be an opt-out.
Well, I would hope
well.
he would give it to somebody or give it to a charity.
Or
something.
at the same time, he could just opt out. He doesn't have to participate.
I don't think he needs to give it to a charity, but I would think instead of opting out, you'd be better off giving it to something.
At the same time, that would be a decision that he wouldn't be automatically opted out by being, grotesquely wealthy. He would have to manually opt out of participating because he doesn't believe as a altruistic person. He wouldn't just say he doesn't need it, nor does he deserve it. So, the thing is, this is actually a similar concept to a negative income tax. We're specifically not going to talk about a negative income tax today. Those are two very, very different things. They're very similar, but very different things. So a negative income tax is up to a certain point, a certain tax bracket. Your tax rate is instead of it being effectively zero, like the 47% comment that Mitt Romney arguably sank his campaign, that comment he made, he wasn't wrong.
No, he was not wrong.
He's not wrong, but 47% of adults in the United States effectively pay zero income tax. Just don't tell them that, because that makes them angry because they don't feel like they contribute. Well, Numbers, yeah. In the wise words of Rasheed Wallace, ball don't lie.
Right. No, you are right in that, and
But anyway, to finish
they
the
pay
negative
other
income
forms
tax.
of taxes, but not
Yeah,
income
the negative income tax would then, instead of you would pay an effective negative rate by getting cash compensation of a X percent. Say Milton Friedman was actually one of the first people that originally developed this. The numbers he was putting
Not
around,
UBI,
not
but-
UBI, but a negative income
Right.
tax.
clarifying for the crowd.
Say 1,000. If you made $1,000 a month, would be the minimum threshold. Any income that you make less than that, you would get then an additional, say, 50%. So if you only made $500, you get $250 at a 50% negative income tax rate as a direct government payment or direct government benefit to replace all the different myriad of welfare systems for those below a certain dollar amount, whatever you want to set that, poverty times 2, whatever.
And effectively, in the United States of America, we do this. We just
We just
in
do
true
it
of-
17,000 different ways.
Right, exactly. I was going to say, in true big government America fashion, we do it.
We've got
And-
39 federal food assistance programs.
Right. Tax cuts for your kids, tax cuts for this, tax cuts for that, whatever. And then a lot of people end up paying, either no income tax and still getting something in return, or they pay a little bit and they get 250% of what they paid,
Yeah.
in return, in essence. So,
But here's the thing, Josh, and I know that we can go 12 rounds about this, but I would argue that not only is that the cost of doing business to have an organized society, it's not necessarily wrong, because if you don't do a semi-redistributive tax system, your society will not stick together. It won't have longevity or stability, and despite the moral flaws in taxation, because taxation is theft.
it is.
But unfortunately, I hate to. We're not. This isn't the topic of tonight, but I would just qualify that as the unfortunate cost of doing business.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's not the topic for tonight, but that's a bold statement to throw out after we're not talking about this.
I know.
As the host. I mean,
And I know you don't. I know you don't subscribe to that, but
that's okay. You can
Add that-
continue.
add that
It doesn't
to,
mean I won't say something. Maybe
Yeah,
a little later,
I know
but
you guys on Deep Issues have pumpkin there. We need to come up with our own.
We do.
Version here.
We do.
Whether it's football helmet or something.
Yeah. yeah.
Of
Yeah.
topics.
We do need a mystical energy force which chooses our topics for us,
Yes.
like we do on Deep Issues.
So, anyway, we'll do that. We'll
Sure.
do that show eventually. But so negative income tax, so you get an X percentage in a direct cash assistance on a weekly or monthly basis, depending on how you set it up in advance. You calculate it on the fly. So if in month 1 you make a little enough that you would qualify for it, you'd get that direct cash benefit. But say you're a seasonal worker, where during the winter you work in agriculture up in the Midwest, and during the winter there's not much for you to do, so you don't make any money during the winter.
Yeah,
And you don't-
I spent 25 years in a field very similar to that.
Yeah.
Here living in Michigan. the
So
Detroit
yeah,
area.
so you do that, you don't make money 3 months out of the year, you would then qualify for an incredibly large portion of a negative income rate during that period. But at the same time, when you're working and you're saying, say the $1,000 is the minimum threshold, and you make $2,000 this time, you don't pay any taxes on the first 1,000, and then the 1,000 to 2,000 you'd pay whatever it works out to be. UBI doesn't work that way. The concept.
Yeah, so again, we were kind of jumping around there. Everything we just said was talking about negative income
taxes.
not about UBI.
Yes.
Not about universal
So
basic income.
universal basic income. So the biggest arguments for and proponents of UBI talk about, if you take away the instability and the worry of what happens if I get fired, what happens if I take this leap of faith, this economic leap of faith, and it doesn't pan out, will my family and I be in ruin? Are we going to be homeless? Are we going to die?
What happens if I get $1.50 an hour raise and it barely puts me over the threshold, and then I'm in worse shape than I was,
Yeah.
or doing well in my job and getting
Yeah.
a little bit of a raise?
Yeah, exactly. So, what happens when, if I take an economic leap of faith and it doesn't work out, or what that additional stress being removed of not having to worry about the basic necessities of life, where your next meal is coming from, whether or not you have shelter over your head at night, that the economic performance of that will help pay for and make this new tax scheme and economic system worth it. UBI can still exist within a largely capitalist framework. It's just your tax rates are necessarily going to have to be ridiculous. So, if you want to think of it this way, currently you would argue that the economic distribution looks much like a pyramid or inverted pyramid, depending on how you want to look at it. There's very few people who make a shit ton of money. There's progressively more people as you move down who make more and more money. However, in the United States, it's more of a pear shape than a pyramid. Well, a pear with a very pointy top.
which I always like to point out when that is mentioned about the variance between the rich and the poor now as opposed to in the past, when money is needed in bigger numbers than naturally by the course of regular old math.
Yeah.
That's going to change. So when people say, oh my God, they make so much more than, the CEO makes so much more than their workers now than they used to. Well, you used to make $100 a week in, 1920, and that was you were doing just fine.
That was middle class life.
Yeah, that you were doing just fine. So that person,
well, I don't know if the $100 is exactly a middle class life, but you get what I'm going at.
Yeah, and I'm not using history here. I'm just throwing basic numbers out. So that CEO, when they were only making $300,000, well, they were Rockefellers. They were super rich. Those were the guys that there wasn't anything in the world you couldn't afford. Well, now $300,000 is really good. You're doing well for yourself.
Unless, of course, you live in Southern California.
Right, exactly, but right.
Or
no,
New York City.
Actually, anywhere in California. Yeah.
Yeah.
Northern California as well. So $300,000, yeah, I'd take $300,000 a year, but you're not somebody who's you're not Bill Gates.
At $300,000 a year, you're working wealthy. You
Yeah.
still work for your money. Your money isn't making money. You make money.
Right. Exactly.
With your labor.
Yeah, exactly.
Generally speaking.
So yeah,
the people who are in that sort of tax bracket, you're talking your upper earning lawyers, your highly specialized doctors, your there's finance professionals,
Sure.
investment bankers who, you know what, that $300 million ain't salary, man. That's commission on performance.
Right.
And if shit goes tits up, they make nothing.
Right. And and most people who are making $300,000 a year, you might be 55, 60 years old.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. You've done this for a while.
Yeah, you started that job at 35 and made it to 70 and made it to 120, and now here you are. You've been doing it for 35 years and you're making $300,000.
Yeah, you're a senior level manager whose decisions are directly responsible for huge portions of individual companies' financial performance, whether it's your company or it's a small business owner
Right.
who does, their business will go out of business tomorrow and their income becomes zero.
Right.
It isn't a salary that is, not guaranteed, but is essentially a fairly stable, guaranteed. As long as you keep showing up and keep doing your job for company X, you'll keep getting that salary until you retire.
So it's not weird to think that the person that's in the middle of a company making $300,000 that his boss makes $4.7 million. Or something along those lines.
And here's something that, this is a huge tangent here, but the idea that CEOs are unjustly paid. The guys that are pointed out that are CEOs of, Walmart, Amazon, stuff like that, they make decisions. Let's look at Jeff Bezos specifically.
Okay.
I think he might just be chairman of the board. I don't know if he's still CEO of Amazon. I'm not sure. Jeff Bezos fucks up, makes a decision that tanks Amazon. What is the overall effect on the U.S. economy? How many people does Jeff Bezos employ right now directly? Or does the market that Jeff Bezos has procured and shepherds, how many people are directly employed by that piece of the market?
A lot.
Like 360,000 people.
Sure. Well, my thing
or
is with
0.1% of the entire U.S. population, and you could and like 1% of the working population is directly employed by Jeff Bezos.
My thing is with this,
economic
Dorf.
utility by what Amazon provides.
If it's one
Don't
of
you
these,
think that much power and potential influence over something? Don't you want an incredibly competent person
yes, you do.
wielding those that much power?
You-
And of course, so those incredibly competent people are highly sought after, because I'm sure if Jeff Bezos didn't own the place and just worked for it, don't you think Walmart would come calling? Hey, you've grown Amazon from a tiny little bookstore to the biggest company on planet Earth.
The vast
20
majority of
years.
people,
I'd love
in
to
this world.
I'd love to know how you did it. I'd like to hire you so you can do that to my company.
Okay, the vast majority of people in this world, myself included, if they made $100 million 1 year, wouldn't work again.
Oh yeah.
You wouldn't work again.
And then there's
So-
the sick fucks like Bezos and Elon Musk and stuff like that have made millions and millions over, that because they just can't, leave, good enough alone.
Right. So in
But
other
at
words,
the
there's
same
more to
time,
the story.
Thank you, Christ, that we have some people
Sure.
like that.
The Lee Iacocca's of the world,
Yeah.
and to throw back to further back.
Yeah.
So my thing is, listen, you think CEOs get paid too much? That's adorable. That's so
They're
cute.
paid exactly what they're worth.
That's fine. Don't support that company. Okay? Don't support that company and see how well that works for you. Really, just feel free. I'm a big boycott fan. I am. I truly am. And I put my money where my mouth is. But truth is, my money ain't worth that much. So
Yeah.
my money and my mouth don't really matter that much. There's a lot of companies for myriad reasons.
Look at
that
Nike, for example.
Yeah.
All the controversy Nike's been involved in the last 12 months, their stock's never been higher.
You know what?
Their company's
Nike
never been
is
worth
such
more.
an awesome example for what I was going to try to say. I couldn't boycott Nike when this happened. Do you know why? Because I personally made the decision to boycott Nike in like 1997. And have kept true to that because I can't stand that company. I hate them, and I've never bought a Nike product that entire time. Did it affect Nike? No. But I did. I made the commitment. I don't buy anything Nike. I haven't. But I can't boycott them again.
And here's the other thing. I don't have a better phrase for it, but for this specific example, and then we're going to get back to UBI here. I think Colin Kaepernick's an idiot.
Yeah.
I think the fact that Nike takes strategic business advice from him is moronic. However, data shows that they should keep taking advice from him. There's a positive correlation in that
Or
company's
pretending like they are.
Oh yeah, there's a positive correlation between their financial performance and Colin Kaepernick's advice.
Right.
I think I think he's incredibly misguided. I mean, it's his right to be.
Sure.
We've done that show before.
Yep.
We don't need, that was more, I think it was on the Majors Live, which
It was a good show, though.
you can find that archive here. We've done that show. My opinion on him hasn't changed. Anyway, I separate the art from the artist. I like Nike shoes and Nike apparel here because I like how it fits, I like how it performs, and I like how it looks. I ain't gonna let Colin Kaepernick or faux anti-American outrage take that from me.
Sure.
I think the majority of Hollywood actors, I think Chris Evans is a moron. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy Captain America.
Right.
I'm not going to let Chris Evans being a moron take that from me.
Axl Rose is one of the craziest people who have ever made their name famous in the United States of America. That man, there is not a song he's released that I don't own at least once somewhere.
Yeah, there you go.
I do. I practice a boycott on occasion. That is my right. I separate the art from the artist on occasion too. I would like to think that when you hear these people talk about this bakery wouldn't bake a cake for a gay wedding. Well, that seems kind of rude to me. I think it's 100% their right. And if my local bakery was doing something that I thought was wrong, I wouldn't buy my cupcakes there anymore. But there are certain places that...
It's a non-government service.
Yeah, there's a Mexican place on Plymouth Road in Livonia called El Coyote Loco that has the best food on planet Earth. And they'd have to say or do something really lousy for me to start the boycott. I'm not gonna lie, And if I went in there and He was, and they just threw down, and they would never do this, by the way. They're nicest guys in the world. But if they were like, I think Hitler's not so bad, I'd be like, oh, jeez. Oh, man, I'm going to give you one of those.
I'm going to let that one slide. Yeah, I got you.
Like, it would have to be like, I'd be like, oh, jeez, I can write one of those off for these tacos.
Yeah. Because at the same time, it's all a utility to get into like utilitarianism here. It's all a utility statement for me. Nike provides me utility by making shoes that fit my fat feet, my wide feet, and surprisingly, Nike not known for their wide shoes. I can get wide shoes that fit my wide feet from them. They're comfortable. I like how they look. I like how they last. I like how they perform, and they make apparel that fits my wide shoulders. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, and know what?
And that's the utility I get out of it. And that's I don't look to Nike to be Phil Knight to be my moral guide on political issues.
Right, and that's and you're talking to a guy that, again, what has the Nike boycott done against Nike? You're talking to a guy that most of my clothes.
Buy their stuff anyway.
Yeah, I mean, my clothes are bought from. Oh, geez, which 1950s former U.S. powerhouse is going to go out of business soon and has a discount rack? Sears and Kmart. Okay, that's where I buy my clothes. I'm wearing shoes from like the Clinton administration right now. I mean, who cares?
I wish I could shoes to last that long. Well, then again, I was a very young person in the Clinton administration, but. Anyway.
I was pretty young too, but luckily you guys can. You guys
14 feet during the Clinton.
Yeah, you guys can see me in Dorf sitting here. I haven't grown any since the Clinton administration. So.
And when Clinton was out of office in what 2000?
Yeah, 2000.
Okay, I would have been 9 when he left. So
okay. I was 20. I was 20 when he left.
I was 9. So.
But I was 12 when he was elected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 1.
Nice. So you were born in the Bush Senior administration.
The tail end of Bush Senior.
Yeah. You are young. I was Carter. I was born in the Carter administration.
Ugh.
Yeah. I don't remember it. I remember Reagan as a little kid, but anyway, we digress.
All right, back to UBI. So the idea is proponents of universal basic income. Before we even get to the making economic sense of it, is that reduction in stress and not having to worry about making painful choices to deal with economic realities would allow people to pursue what they want instead of what they have to, which would cause a revolution in the economy that would shift it more to working on the creative and the potential than the economically necessary. It would also then their argument is eliminate poverty. I don't see how you square that circle because of runaway inflation, which is a big challenge in any UBI scheme. When you increase, ultimately it's going to increase the monetary supply, increase the cost because there's an increased demand for lower end essentials, which is going to cause runaway inflation. I understand that without taking more authoritarian control over certain commodities, how that is a challenge or something that can't be just left alone because you'll be in worse shape than you were before if you don't do something about that ahead of time. But that sort of freedom that provides people to pursue their creative interests, work on stuff they like instead of what they have to, and it will eliminate poverty and we'll all live happily ever after the end. You see a lot of, especially tech executives, specifically Zuckerberg, Musk, and there's a couple other people that, of course, I'm forgetting, that actually are all on board for this. Elon Musk is notably famous for going after this. He's always the one warning us off about AI.
Right.
Be fucking scared of it.
Mm-hmm. Bill Gates as well.
Yeah. Be absolutely scared of it. Not only because, Skynet could be more real than we think, and more real than we'd like to admit, but at the same time, what happens when overnight 50% of people are no longer necessary to keep things going? Economically necessary. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying their human worth is gone. But in order for the macro economy to continue, they don't need to be involved. And what are you going to do with them? And because all of a sudden, you know, a lot of purpose, especially in a secular society, people get purpose from work. That's why you always see people working themselves to death for their dream career, their dream job, is because that what gives their life purpose. You could also get purpose from raising a family, from religion, from pursuing the creative arts, and stuff like that. But you see a lot of it people in a modern secular society, they get their purpose from work.
Mm-hmm. And because they hate their spouse, too, and they just can't wait to get out of the house.
Anywho, as someone who's been divorced, I'll leave that up to you. I've never been married, so we'll leave that one alone. I ain't touching that one. But God damn it, you derailed this entirely. But the idea that those sort of pressures and stresses of society, if you were able to change that, the different branches and different ways the economy could grow, and because of UBI, could help alleviate that holy shit moment when all of a sudden, what is the number one employer of people without a high school diploma in the United States? Men without a high school diploma in the United States.
Construction?
Truck driving.
Truck driving, okay.
Those guys are just a regulatory leap from being no longer necessary.
Yep. No, it's true. And
that employs the transportation industry in the United States directly employs roughly 6 million people.
What else?
Wouldn't need 2/3 of them anymore.
What other stat also can you throw out there about truck driving? It is the most dangerous job in the world. It is the most dangerous job in the United States.
Most deaths per instances of worst pay injuries and death, yes, does not have the highest injury or death rate per capita of all employments. That belongs to logging.
Okay, well,
but
okay, that's which like 6 people do.
Not really. It's a lot. Go to the Pacific Northwest, man. That's a lot bigger than you
okay,
thought,
but logging is typically,
or Canada.
It's a lot of times lumped in with construction work or things like that, which is number 2. Construction
doesn't necessarily have the most fatalities. It has a high prevalence of workplace injury.
Typically,
you work in the biz. Go ahead and enlighten us on this.
No, yeah, I mean, roofing is what I've spent 25 years doing. That in a lot of lists, it's always in the top 10. It's listed number 2 a lot, usually behind truck driving. So one would ask if we're going to automate something, or if we are going to try to bring in more technology to something.
What's another huge employer?
Yeah, shouldn't we start with the jobs that are the most dangerous? Shouldn't we want to start with that?
Don't even take like the dangerous thing out of it. What's going to be automated first is what is easiest. Mm-hmm. What is another huge employer for people who don't have advanced degrees?
Yeah, fast food or
warehousing.
Okay, yeah,
warehousing. Guess what? Warehouse bot already exists.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't necessary.
Right.
It's not necessarily to get the work done. It's now currently still not economically viable for most warehousing companies. Mm-hmm. The average warehouse is a lot smaller than you think. The average warehouse isn't Amazon, one of Amazon's regional depots. It's not. It's, a couple thousand square feet and 5 dudes.
Yeah.
That's the average warehouse. It's still not economically viable for that. The mega warehouses like a Walmart distribution center or Amazon or something like that, those could be entirely bot run very, very soon. Very, very soon.
Possibly.
I think, quite honestly, if it wasn't political suicide by all of a sudden automating away 100,000 Amazon jobs, I think they would do it tomorrow.
Probably.
And if they could ramp up production of warehouse bot,
and when it becomes truly more than just cost effective, it will then become cost necessary, and they will do it. Mm-hmm. They will do it despite the outrage, despite what's happening. Just like
and you'll also have runaway centralization there as well, because if I'm John Q's Supply and I do a little, I'm a small industrial supplier that I have one location and I sell about $3 million worth of stuff this year, and I'll make about 200. At the end of the day, I'm the business owner. I'll make about a $200,000 profit on my $3 million.
Why do you think?
I'll pay my 6-7 employees that work for me.
Sure.
guess what? I can't afford to hire Warehouse Bot. Warehouse Bot's too expensive. I don't know enough volume to make him worth it. I'm now out of business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because
and this is
Amazon
why
is
do you
eating
think
me.
why do you think McDonald's supports $15 minimum wage?
Because they've already started rolling out all those touchscreens, and there's no consumer backlash,
Right.
baby.
Right. And
They've had functioning Burger Bot forever, but it wasn't politically necessary yet.
right. And so that's why I firmly believe that, call me a conspiracy theorist if you will, but I firmly believe they push things like $15 minimum wage, and they push things they like their employees to be lousy. They like the
High
the
school
stereo
kid who's just working there for part-time,
They-
or the lifer.
right. The stereotype of fast food workers suck benefits them, because then when they get rid of them,
No one feels bad.
they'll say, when people start complaining, they'll say, "You've been complaining about them for 50 years. All we did was replace them with automation. Like, what? Come on, pick one.
Yeah.
You know, what
And
were you complaining about?
and the gig economy, all those like Uber drivers, everybody who works a side job or gets their primary income from Uber. Uber's actively trying to run you out of business.
Mm-hmm.
They have a huge R&D expenditure, literally trying to end that.
Yeah.
They've been doing it since the beginning. That's their goal. Everybody's drives for like Grubhub and stuff like that. Oh, by the way, Elon Musk, beacon of anti-automation himself. Summon mode, which I don't know if you're familiar with that with the self-driving Teslas, should be ready to go in the next 2 months.
Yeah.
Meaning that if you're within, I forget how many miles, you can tell your Tesla to come to you.
Yeah. That stuff scares the crap out of me.
It will stay legally on the roads, and it will come to you.
Yeah.
Elon's long-term goal is you buy a car, it becomes an income source for you. Because when you're not using it, you can farm it out. You can rent it to other people when you're not driving it.
This is these people to me, and I like Elon Musk, but people like that to me are.
Sign me up for Elon Musk's space colony on Mars.
Yeah, these guys are a walking Ian Malcolm question from Jurassic Park. It's the whole, so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they forgot to ask whether or not they should, because these things are, the robots will overthrow us eventually. This is going to happen.
I'm not even talking like robots will become sentient, realize that humans are no longer necessary, or are counterproductive, and will start mass producing Terminators to hunt you down and exterminate them.
I am.
You've watched too many sci-fi movies, Josh. But
just enough.
People who are very well concerned about that are also very big proponents of UBI. They're not necessarily saying rolling it out now. However, this is where I get involved. I do not think UBI is viable economically now, nor is it necessary. However, I am willing to fully acknowledge, in a post-scarcity society, which we are nowhere close to yet, we're talking Star Trek replicators here. I'm not necessarily saying you can 3D print food out of the air, but you shouldn't, at the point where you are no longer, it's no longer necessary to work to survive, and things are abundant and available to everybody.
Why not now, though? Why not now?
Because we're not there yet. We're not in post-scarcity. Supply and demand is still the ultimate driver in the society.
But if it's a good idea, isn't it a good idea
Doesn't
now?
mean you don't work towards it. Wouldn't a lack of economic scarcity be wonderful?
Okay, some of the questions I have about UBI.
Sure.
This is just like the minimum wage question, basically.
Sure.
What stops the prices from going up? I mean, what
I'm fully willing to admit, even though I am not pro UBI today, I'm acknowledging that it has a place probably before I die. But we don't need it yet.
Oh,
That
yeah.
doesn't mean we don't work out all the kinks and do all the thinking and pondering and testing and trials now, or start working on them now.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it needs to be rolled out in mass, specifically in the United States or anywhere on the planet yet, because we're not to the point where it's, necessary, societally necessary.
Okay, I'm going to throw you for a bit of a loop
Sure.
here, Dorf. I know you're supposed to be the pro UBI guy here, and I'm supposed to be the anti. That's because anyone who's listened to me on shows, this show or other shows here on the Empire Media over the last decade plus. No, it was...
Have you guys really been doing this a decade?
Yeah.
So I know...
It hasn't been
I'm
the
at about
Empire.
the 7-year mark overall with Adam doing other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been the Empire Media that entire time, but yeah, dating back to...
It was the Majors Live, Imperial Media, Grouty.
Detroit Grouty Radio, Grouty.com. All these things. Yeah, it's been over a decade. And it was early 2000s when I started doing internet radio with Mike Soroka. Well over 10 years actually. That was like really like we used to like play songs and stuff. Like we're internet DJs. Yes, I'm an extremely small government guy. People know that about me.
Mm-hmm. I generally, and here's the other thing about that. I generally believe philosophically the same things. However, I'm willing to acknowledge a little bit more. I would say economic reality.
No, here I am. I'm going to throw some acknowledgments at you. I'm going to throw a little bit of philosophy, and then I'm going to throw some things I acknowledge. Okay, listen, I oppose taxation. I believe taxation is theft. I especially oppose when people say, oh, you have to have some taxes. Okay, well, I especially oppose income tax. More for privacy invasion reasons.
And to your right, and to your point here, Andrew Yang, you could argue he's running for president, if you don't know. Currently, I think polling 5th or 6th. He's pretty close to tied for 5th with Bernie at this point in the latest poll that came out this week. Still hovering at only 5% in the Democratic primary, which is enough to keep him around. But does he have staying power? Who knows?
We'll see.
He addresses that. He would largely like to switch over the tax system to largely based on use taxes.
Okay, so let me finish this thought, though, if you will.
Sure.
Yes, I oppose taxation. I especially oppose income tax. I oppose anything that makes government bigger, in theory. And a lot of this is philosophically, I oppose privacy invasion. I have a firm belief that if a country is free, you are not free to do anything if you are not allowed to answer none of your business to the question. What do you do for a living? None of your business. Are you married? None of your business. Are you... is that your car? None of your business. You aren't actually free to do any of these things. People talk about marriage rights. No, the only marriage right is...
the right to have it recognized.
Right. The marriage...
the tax benefit.
The true marriage right is to be able to say, hey, Mike, you and that dude married? None of your business. That's the only true right to it, is that you can get away with it, not the right to have it regulated, or the want to have it regulated. I oppose redistribution of wealth. Really, in any form. I oppose it, and the smallest level. I oppose any redistribution of wealth. You took it from person A and you gave it to person B. I oppose it. But, listen, this UBI thing. I'm not as staunchly opposed to this as you may think. I'm actually not at all. I don't like Andrew Yang's politics. They kind of scare me. But he made a good case for it at the Democratic debate last time, even though they let him talk for about 37 seconds total. But he made a decent case in that small amount of time they gave him. Listen, if we're doing this UBI and they're truly... if you're talking about UBI and you're also talking about what it's going to replace, I'm all for it.
As proposed, it surely would simplify things.
Yeah, I mean, if we're bringing in UBI...
it would cost a hell of a lot more, but it would sure simplify a lot of shit.
Well, would it, though? I mean...
the current estimate, if you were to roll it out today, at $1,000 a month for every adult in the United States, it would be about $3 trillion annually.
Okay.
Which you don't have that much... you don't spend that much money on social programs right now.
Right. But I think they're actually lowballing how much would be saved by getting rid of the social programs, because it could, in theory, get rid of so many entire agencies. Dozens of entire agencies.
I'm talking like entire expenditures. We don't spend
That's what I'm saying. And I get that. I get that sheer numbers to numbers.
Yeah.
The UBI costs more. But it's also...
and here's another thing to consider. If you just rip the Band-Aid off and do that overnight, how many people directly work for the federal government that you now are overnight unemploying?
That's fine with me.
The entire economy of Virginia is going to die overnight, and most of Maryland.
Sorry, Virginia. You know, if you want to make an omelet, I don't know what to tell you. I really sorry.
Fair enough.
I don't weep for those things. If a better plan.
Easy for you to say because you don't live there.
Well, no, it's not easy for me to say. It really.
That was a sarcastic.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I hold that opinion pretty consistently. Actually, you know, if your job, this was like when the government shut down. And I was that jerk who was cracking up about it the whole time.
Me too.
Say, if your job is that unimportant, then maybe your job shouldn't exist. Maybe your job shouldn't exist. I'm not trying to starve families. You'll have to get another job. I'm sorry. You know, I mean, how many jobs would be lost if we abolished the IRS? The question I'm asking is, how many tears will I shed if we abolish the IRS? Zero. We should abolish the IRS. And if you're just some guy who is trying to get by making $60,000 a year with
the average full-time federal government worker makes like 85, right?
Right, yeah.
Which is like 4 times the poverty rate.
Right. One of the very few things I agreed with Governor Scheid, former Governor Schneider here in the state of Michigan, was him saying, like, listen, I'm not saying we need to get rid of all the government jobs. I'm just saying we need to make them equivalent to what they make in the private sector. If these guys are in government and they're making 1.5 to 3 times more what people doing that exact same job make in the private sector, then we're paying them too much and we're paying them with the people's money. I agree. Sorry. I mean, if you don't want me to have an opinion and you don't like my opinion, well, stop having a job that gets paid with my tax money.
Fair.
You know? I mean, that's... I mean, you know, when I have an opinion about the CEO who gets paid too much, what does the CEO get to say? Go to hell, Josh Houslander, who asked you?
You don't buy my stuff anyway.
Yeah. Stop buying Nike shoes. Oh, I stopped buying them in 1997. Oh, really? Didn't notice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Excuse me while I wipe my fake tears with hundos,
right.
baby.
I mean, that's the sad truth about the world. And, hey, boycotts can work, by the way, too.
They have.
Boycotts do work. They can work. And they can even work on a large scale. But they need to actually be enacted. You can't say...
Stuck to.
Yeah, you can't say... I don't like Colin
and
Kaepernick. I'm not going to buy Nike today.
Here's the ultimate thing. The Colin Kaepernick crap with Nike.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't know, and even those who do know, like me, don't care.
Right.
We don't care.
You know, if
we're not going to let it steal the utility that provides to us.
I think not only do I think Colin Kaepernick is not intelligent, I think he's a jerk. I think he is an absolute jerk.
Deliberately foolish.
I don't know. I think so, perhaps. But all I can say about the Nike thing is if you're boycotting Nike now because of what Colin Kaepernick is saying on social media or elsewhere, and you've known for the last 15 years that they use sweatshops to make their shoes, shame on you. You know, really, you're kind of a dope if none of the other things Nike did, you know, like you've known that the shoes you're wearing were made in a sweatshop by some Chinese kid making 7 cents a week. You know, you knew that, and you kept buying their stuff, but then Colin Kaepernick was rude. Colin Kaepernick said something stupid, and now, boycott!
I'm going to burn my stuff I already bought.
I mean, come on. I mean, just look yourself in the mirror. That's all. That's... You know.
So let's talk about the economic realities of rolling out UBI.
Can I say one more thing about UBI from my
go ahead and finish that.
From my personal.
Actually, we want to recap it again because we've kind of gone on I want to actually respond to some of it, but I want to recap it for the folks first.
One thing I will say about UBI too, and this is again me speaking in the abstract, me speaking about my philosophical and ideological beliefs, me saying what is right for things involved. UBI, it would help me a lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not a guy that makes a lot of money. I got 4 kids. I get 0 benefit from any government programs whatsoever. I probably could if I wanted to play that game, but I don't. Because I oppose it and I don't feel like it and I don't think...
You don't partake.
Yeah, and I don't want to be involved in it all. But it would probably help a guy like me quite a bit, and
What would you do with an extra $1,000 a month?
yeah, I mean, what I fear I would do is I fear I would pay my rent that just went up $1,000. You know, that's what I fear I would do with the $1,000 I got, is that
all of a sudden you've inflated the monetary supply for low-end commodities, and everything just got more expensive.
My apartment that's in a decent neighborhood, but a working class area, my rent would maybe not go up $1,000, but I bet it'd go up $600 or $800. You know, like overnight. Actually, I really do think it would. You know, I maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I know a lot of things would go up. That's one thing that I think would for sure is rent on apartments.
And
I
so
think would go up overnight.
One of the ultimate tenets of UBI is increase, reducing economic stability of the permanently impoverished. Let's call it that. So Milton Friedman acknowledges in his negative income tax arguments. The data shows those who are not just temporarily impoverished, but those who are habitually and permanently impoverished don't make economically rational decisions. The average person in the United States today is below the poverty line, spends an average of $500 a year on lottery tickets.
Yeah.
Is that an economically efficient decision? Is an economist who's trying to move the invisible hand around and take more control of the... How could you, and it's a pretty scary ramification. Oh, we're going to make economically inefficient decisions illegal. Oh boy.
Yeah, that's that's terrible.
That's horrifying.
I always make this.
And even as someone who, like myself, who would I fashion myself as a rational thinker. Is my craft beer habit an economically efficient decision?
Yeah. I mean, should craft beer only be allowed to be sold to people who make X amount of money per year? I know I don't want those kind of rules in my world.
Because I would, I say, let's say on an average year, I would say, or an average month, I'd probably be spending $25 to $30 on craft beer. Instead of investing in something or paying down my student debt faster or whatever like that. That is not an economically efficient decision. But should I be allowed to make it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And listen, I have said this. I believe this on the smallest possible levels, like when you let a buddy or a coworker borrow $20.
Don't ever expect it back.
And I believe it when the government does it, and UBI kind of does this, but I can't stand the idea. I hate it when people are surprised that I have this view again. But I can't stand when people say, we need to drug test welfare recipients. We need to make sure that bridge cards or food stamps, like they used to be called, are only spent on bare necessities. That you can't buy steak or pork chops with them. You can only buy ground beef
and vegetables.
Right, yeah. We need to crack down on the party stores who will let you use your bridge.
Cash.
Yeah, who will just kind of let you use them for whatever, because they also sell ramen noodles and stuff there. I firmly believe you give somebody money, you don't get to tell them how to spend it. You really don't.
And here's the thing, that falls in line with UBI.
It does, yeah, for sure.
So here's the thing, that there's been small scale UBI experiments, like in Finland. There's actually one in Hamilton, Ontario, that's currently active now. It's in the middle of it. Hear what they found? People in lower income brackets still don't make economically efficient decisions.
Right. No, they won't. As it says in the Bible, the poor will always be with us. There will always be poor people. There really will. There will always be people...
And, unless, of course, you're willing to take the Orwellian step of making stupidity illegal and throwing dumb people in jail, or having, let's not go down the Hitlerian line there. That could go down. But
everybody wants to be rich, right?
Yeah. Well, no. No, they don't.
They don't?
No.
Well, everyone wants to be comfortable, right?
You could argue, people may say that, but do they act on that?
Well, no, but... Oh, I didn't say people want to work for it, but everybody wants to be rich, right? If there's no poor people, there's no rich people. Okay?
John Lennon's Imagine right here.
Right. I mean, and John Lennon's Imagine is a really...
crock of shit.
Yeah, it's garbage. It's a catchy tune, but it stops right there. So that really, if you wanna get rid of the rich people, well, then everybody's just equal in their poverty. If you want to get rid of the poor people, everybody's equal in their poverty. Really, that's kind of how it is.
And here's the thing. I know that Adam and I, we this is another show I want to have. He and I both, I believe, share the thought that legitimate dominance hierarchies are acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
We just disagree on what legitimate is. He, as a significantly more, someone who's more aligned with, like I would argue, I don't think he'd fight this, a communistic.
No, he considers himself a communist now. That is.
I know. He's gone to the dark side. I know.
He was always there.
Yeah.
But hey, he makes his points well,
yeah.
as we discussed on
But
2 POEs ago. He makes his points well.
Someone who's there, he thinks a lot less of the way the status quo now, why the world works the way it is legitimate than I do. CEO pay is a perfect example. I think CEO pay is absolutely legitimate. No, these people are, work their dick off to get there. They're obviously competent, because if they're not, they wouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. And they're responsible for humongous economic decisions, well, not only on their own company, but the people that work for them. Because if say, I work for a publicly traded company,
mm-hmm.
Not that I have any anonymity, but I'm not going to say who it is. If the CEO of my company fucks up, there's now 4,500 of us without a job tomorrow.
Right.
And there's $1.2 billion just gone from the economy.
I oversimplify it even further with this. A company, any company, their prime objective, and truthfully,
should be their only objective.
Yeah, yes, their only objective.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely the prime objective, but truly the only objective is to make
the profit
money.
Motive.
Yes, just to make a profit. That is it. If it works by making a profit, by paying the CEOs that much, then it's the right thing to do. That's simple. I mean, I don't know what
I'm on board with that, generally speaking. That doesn't mean there doesn't need to be controls on that. Extreme example, nuclear power companies shouldn't be allowed to just dump the waste anywhere because it's more profitable than not bury it in a hole in the ground in Tennessee.
I didn't say you're allowed to do illegal things.
Well, at the same time, but from a moralistic perspective, what makes that illegal? Anyway.
Well, I mean, but that should be illegal, even by somebody as small government as me.
What I'm saying,
it's not your property.
It's not necessarily your property. It's shared property. You want to get into that concept. It's if you want to get into the non-aggression principle, is the act of polluting which could harm others truly non-aggressive? We're not going.
I mean, if you wanted to say that, you could simply say a smart company would kill their employees when they hit 65, so they don't have to pay retirement. That's
in a ruthless calculus economic fashion.
Yeah, but that's not.
It's terrible.
Yeah, but that's nobody's saying.
If you wanted no restrictions, extremo land, that would be what you do.
Well, I'm not talking about no restrictions, extremo land.
Yeah,
that's just saying
there would be no retirement, no restrictions, extremo land.
Listen, if some company overpays their CEO and then goes out of business,
well,
shame on you. You made the wrong decision. I mean,
and you know what? If there's a market for it, somebody will step up and take its place.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would hope that a company would be at least as ruthless to say, we're paying our CEO $240 million a year, and I know for sure that that we can give this guy, we can steal him from this company and pay him $90 million.
Salary makes $240 million. It's they get a stock option,
right,
which is value is that much because they're running an incredibly. There's like 15 people in the world, that in the United States that actually have an income of like that much.
Sure, you're right.
Or they're a Saudi oil minister.
I'll change my numbers.
Sure.
If somebody's making $30 million a year, and you can pay somebody just as good $8 million a year, I would hope that any company with half a brain would
hire the $8 million
guy. Would take that. And Are there examples of CEOs who have taken less money? Yeah, there are actually a ton. I brought up Lee Iacocca earlier.
The guy who runs Costco.
Yeah, I mean,
You know what the guy who runs Costco's I forget what Costco's market cap is. It's enormous. Dude makes his salary, his cash compensation is like $250,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
For a guy that runs a bazillion-dollar company, he makes $250,000.
Yeah,
That's insane.
It is.
It's incredibly. It's not even insane. It's incredibly altruistic.
Mm-hmm.
The dude is worth 15, 20, 30, 40 times that.
Right. But again, these are people who are extremely special and specialized in their job, and most people
and
when
they're very good at it. Yeah. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there.
Right. And most people when they reach that aren't going to do it anymore.
To escape the binary thinking here, it doesn't mean their entry-level employee who makes just above minimum wage is worthless.
No, not at all.
It doesn't mean they're a worthless sack of flesh. It just means that I have a job, I need done, and this is what it's worth to me, and you're willing to do it for me. Mm-hmm. That's all that means.
And those people sacrifice a lot, typically, to get to that level. And if you're the person who's making $40,000 a year, and you're just getting by, and you love your time with your wife and your family, or your husband and your family.
Guess what? The people who are the next step up, you can probably take home, 3-4 times that. They're miserable.
Yeah, exactly. So
Generally
good for you. You're winning in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
If you're that individual.
You may not die rich, but at the same time, your life along the way is going to be so much more fulfilling if that's this type of stuff you value.
Right. I am not a rich guy at all.
You value being able to be home at night.
But in 2.5 weeks, I'm going to be sitting on a beach, somewhere. I'm not going to say exactly where, but, somewhere in Michigan on a beautiful lake with all 4 of my kids. And there will not be a person on earth happier than me. Even Jeff Bezos or whomever else. They won't be. So it's okay. It's all right if you're that person who we're not trying to shame anyone who doesn't make money.
Well, I mean, look at Elon Musk, for example. Dude's divorced. He's got a bunch of kids. Can't keep a girlfriend anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He works like 20 hours a day and sleeps at his desk.
Yeah.
That sounds fucking miserable. I mean, the dude rolls in money.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds fucking miserable.
Yeah, and most people
But that's what makes him tick.
It. Yeah, most people wouldn't do it.
And that's what makes him, plus the innovative ideas and acting on those ideas and having them pay off, that's what makes him worth what he's worth.
This can even be translated, and we won't dwell on
this.
Dude
was a work. He was an incredibly gifted. He went to Ivy League, Stanford before he dropped out. But dude's from South Africa.
Yeah,
not exactly the richest place in the world. Now, was he an upper class kid from South Africa?
Yeah,
definitely,
absolutely.
But at the same time, the dude came here with not much.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he had intergenerational wealth that he just has coasted on since he moved to the United States.
Sure.
No, the dude has earned every cent he's made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look at athletes.
Successively good big ideas.
Look at our star athletes. I can't believe we're paying them that much. Sometimes I agree.
Oh, they are paid every cent they're worth, and you can argue they're underpaid.
Most people,
based on economic productivity, they're underpaid.
But most people would make $15 million to play a sport once, and then they'd say, "No, I'm good." They wouldn't keep trying for the raise. They wouldn't keep trying for that. They would say, "No, but it's that person's dedication that got them to that level, and that dedication that they still have."
You could argue it's a personality disorder.
Right.
Type A personalities, those who just won't quit and are that ornery and just, I hate to use this word, but like autistically focused.
Sure.
About achieving athletic dominance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I would probably...
some of those people, I've been around a lot of them as a former college athlete here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those people are fucking miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're miserable people to be around.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's a reason that after
huge depression problems in the NBA,
a little bit of an injury that I didn't try and go back to it.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Because what, I was that guy, and then I kind of had the come to Jesus moment, and boy, did I not want to go back.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I admit it. I'm that guy. If I got lucky and typically you don't do this because you get lucky. Typically you earned it, but some people get lucky. If I got paid $15 million to do something, I'm retiring.
Never working again.
Yeah, I am.
And here comes the ultimate philosophical problem with it. This actually relates back to UBI. Perfect. Thank you, here, sir. I don't know if you meant this. Something given has no value.
Yeah.
Something earned does.
Right.
Don't know who said that. I'm sure it's some great philosopher that
I mean, that's...
I'm ripping off here, but don't care.
That's give a man a fish.
Yeah.
In essence, you know.
Yeah. He eats for a day, teach a man to fish, a lifetime. Yada yada yada. Here's the thing about UBI, and here's another problem that a lot of the studies that have gone so far. Something given has no value. Productive economic decisions are not made. The stress relief that it's supposed to take care of is temporary. The new problems become problems.
And that's my if there's an issue with UBI, if you get $1,000 a month, does that just mean that $1,000 is the new zero?
Yep.
You know, I mean
that's a counter.
You know, I mean, and that's what I fear.
That's inflation.
You know, that's what I fear, because I told you
the cost and value of things won't remain stagnant.
No, they will not.
Your cell phone, my cell phone here, if you were to buy it new and pay for it up front, just say for round numbers, $1,000. Just because now everybody has $1,000 extra a month, Samsung, who this phone probably costs $500 to get to me, now has the ability, because average Joe public like me has extra expendable income, they can now charge $1,200 for this exact same thing.
Yep.
Because people will pay for it.
Right.
Is that an economically... Now, should I instead... This is my work phone. It's a 3-generation-old iPhone. Is it more economical? Do these likely perform the exact same form, fit, and function?
Yes.
Yeah.
They
Is there
do.
any reason for me... Well, this isn't the newest one anymore, but it was when I got it. Is there any reason for me to have this one when this one will do just the same?
No, not at all. Just, I mean, that's like...
But,
wait, if you need to go to the store, you know...
foodstuffs, you know...
No, my example is going to be,
Go ahead.
does a Ferrari or a Cadillac get you to the store any differently than, you know...
Oopty.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't. It actually doesn't. You know, that doesn't. But people want them.
Extra, yeah,
People want them, you know?
because they're fun.
Yeah, they are.
There's
They're
value
cool.
and fun.
And that's an issue with the Western world, and
I don't even think it's an issue.
stretching. Well, the issue I was going to say, this is definitely huge in the United States, and this is relatively new. This is not something that used to happen. There are more poor people. For those of you who are listening instead of watching, I'm doing the air quotes right now. There are more poor people walking around with these things, going home every night,
with air conditioning, a television, and a stocked fridge.
right, and watching on a flat screen. You know, because I mean, if you want
Cable television.
if you want a TV to watch television on, I mean,
You went for about $200.
I don't live in the nicest apartment in the world, in the nicest place. I just took the garbage out right before I left for the show, and there was a fatback TV sitting there in front of the dumpster with a sign that said, "Free, still works great." That is a regular occurrence in my place, which isn't the nicest place around. That is a regular occurrence.
You don't have any members of the 1% that live in your complex.
None whatsoever. Definitely none. And I'm not even ragging on the place. It's fine. You know, it's an apartment.
Provides the utility
It's an
that you
apartment
want it
in
to.
Westland, Michigan. You know, get you out of the hood, but it's just a place.
I was born in Westland. Be careful.
Yeah, no. Hey, I was saying it's not the hood. It gets you out of the hood. I was born in Redford, right next to Detroit. You know, that's where it's. And Redford's fine, but if you don't have a TV. Well, here I'm assuming you have a car, but if you don't have a TV,
The car is an economic necessity.
drive through a decent neighborhood for a couple hours,
You'll find
and
one.
within 3 days, you will find a free TV. You will absolutely find a free TV. Look on Craigslist and guarantee there's somebody saying, "Hey, free
Just come
TV.
and get it. I
if
just
you
don't
come
want to have
get
to throw it out."
Yeah, I don't want to. I threw up my back last week, and I don't want to get this damn TV out of my basement. If you come get it, it's free, baby. They're everywhere, and those TVs will last You can't kill those damn things. And when you do kill it,
Well, of course, you blow a hole in with a shotgun.
right? I mean, but when you kill it, do it again. go. I mean, I have homeowners in my day job constantly. Man, you want a free TV? You want a TV? I mean, they're constantly coming out to the crew. It's like, and do you know what my crew says?
Want something?
Do you know what my crew says?
Good, I already got a better one.
Yeah. No, they say no. Almost every time. I remember a time, 5-10 years ago, where people used to say yes quite frequently. Oh, you want this TV? Yeah, sure, I'll take that. Cool, man, thanks, really appreciate that. You want any money? No, it's fine, just get it out of here. Now, they can't even get rid of them. This is, really, there are more poor people walking around with smartphones, watching flat screen TVs, with cable, you know, in this world. This is a new phenomenon. This is new. You know, there are so many things that we view as necessities that are so not necessities.
This is a good segue back to UBI here too.
Yeah.
What was poor before and what is poor now aren't the same thing. Being poor now is so much. If you take the 30,000-foot view, it is so much easier being poor. Doesn't mean your life is less stressful. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean you're less insecure about where your next meal might come from. But at the same time, this isn't in this area. You're not dirt floor shitting in a hole West Virginia here.
Mm-hmm. No.
There are still people in the United States without running water and flushing toilets. Mm-hmm. They exist. Largely because it's their own choice.
Right.
Because they don't want to.
And unfortunately,
they're allowed to make it.
Usually mental illness, too.
Well, it's not even necessarily mental illness, but it's just, the societal desire, the desire to fit in. Because everybody I know, I grew up with, and my family has always done it this way. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be ostracized if I leave for something better.
Yeah.
There are people that do that. The crabs in the bucket analogy. Why do you never need to actually, when you actually are fishing for crabs, you never actually have to, contain them outside of just a regular open top container? Because they won't let each other climb out. They'll pull them back in. Mm-hmm. Anyway. UBI doesn't address fundamental flaws with humanity. Whether you want to acknowledge them as flaws or just economic inefficiencies. Mm-hmm. Inefficient decision making. Just because I gave somebody this thing before we get to how do you pay for it, which is going to cause a complete reorganization of the economy, which means you're going to have to. And here's another thing. Oh, well, we'll just cut your giant military spending. Well, part of the reason the U.S. economy is so big is because we're willing to establish our dominance all over the place.
Yeah.
Why do you think China trade flows so cheaply from China? Because we don't let them fuck around. Because they know if all of a sudden they blockaded all the ships coming to pick up the shit to come over here, we'd fucking blow them up.
Yeah. That's true.
Why do you think, you've seen a little bit of the saber rattling with Iran in the Suez Canal here. Why do you think oil freely flows to the world market out of there? Because we make it. Because the United States Navy is there making sure the economic wheels keep it turning.
That's true.
And if you pull back, you're going to have to stop doing that. And guess what? You will no longer be the hegemon of the world economically. You'll be an even player with everybody else. Guess what? Your economy will not stay this big. As a necessary expense. You can clamor all about the military-industrial complex, but the reason that not just or the expeditionary wars in the Middle East and stuff like that. The reason John Q. Public in the United States lives the comfortable economic life they do is largely because the United States Navy keeps things moving.
Yeah, and you can't use the argument that, other developed countries don't do it. Well, it's typically because they're allies with the United States.
They're allies and trading partners of the United States. Mm-hmm. The reason that China behaves, the reason that Iran behaves, largely, is because they're scared to death of us. And guess what? They're your economic rival. They're not altruistic like you want to be. And,
yeah.
Well, the United States isn't necessarily altruistic in a macro sense either.
No, definitely not.
They aren't. They like to be number one for a while. There's a reason that we are still number one and will stay number one for a long time. Is because we keep that shit open. There's a reason no one fucks with us. Because we have a fucking nuclear sub parked off everybody's coast. That costs money.
Yeah.
That's that stability, both economically and societally, that provides costs money.
It does.
And
It does. And there's,
people
there's
who
a lot of
are
arguments here that aren't being.
And here's the thing. I know you know this. Mm-hmm. I know, but the majority of people don't. They just think they don't acknowledge what it takes to get your consumer good to your shelf at Walmart at the price that it is. It costs money.
No, it's
There wouldn't be, if you wanted to go super libertarian, there wouldn't be a big enough pool of money to privately do that.
Well,
I know that's a shot.
No, I don't necessarily agree
I
with that.
you will never, if you just want to play the game theory argument out here, there will never be a world, especially in Eastern collectivism, where if you don't do that, where collectivism won't win out against liberty.
Yeah, but there's no libertarian principle that necessarily opposes a voluntary army doing things internationally.
Yeah.
There's no libertarian principle.
And here's the thing. I know I've said this in other shows and stuff like that. I don't like expeditionary wars, but if we're going to get into them, I'd like to have the biggest stick, and I'd like to fight to win. I don't want to leave anything left standing when I'm done.
No, I agree with you.
I don't want to go on expeditionary wars to conquer. But if I'm going to get involved, I get to keep what's left.
This is why people around the world dislike Israel, because Israel fights wars like that. They say Israel has the basic idea that if we fight a war, if we fight a battle on a piece of land, if our soldiers bleed on a piece of land and we're the ones standing, it's ours.
We're keeping it.
It's ours.
And I can't blame them.
No, I don't either. That is how wars were fought for all of human history
until 1940, till 1918.
Yeah, basically till.
And it still is in large chunks of the world.
Right.
How wars are fought today.
Right. No, that is actually
how wars were fought in the Western world until 1918.
That's natural law, very basic natural law. Listen, a lot of what you were saying, Dorf, about the U.S. Listen, I could go on rants about nation building and how that doesn't fall into it, and other things that are largely unnecessary.
And here's
hang on,
a brief tangent about nation building.
Okay.
It's all based on the misguided, altruistic bullshit that everybody wants to just live in a free democracy.
Mm-hmm. Right. Nonsense.
No.
Yeah, nonsense.
That is a very deeply rooted cultural thing that's not present in all places.
Well, look how it's supposedly present here in the United States, but look how
it's fading.
Look
fading
how our people vote. Our people don't vote to preserve that. Our people do not vote to maintain freedom and liberty by any stretch. Never have. Maybe in the late 1700s, early 1800s.
Early times of the country, you could argue
that people were voting for that in that direction, and that politicians were championing that. Listen, a lot of what you said, Dorf, is just, it's basically, it's lonely at the top. It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it, is a lot of what you're saying, and I don't disagree. I don't.
The reason the Western world, and largely the world as a whole, lives the comfortable way it does is because the United States, everybody's scared to death of us.
Okay, here's a little bit of American exceptionalism that people are going to hate to hear. But there's always been a world power.
World hegemon, yeah.
There always, as far back as there's been a world that we are,
that everybody knew about everybody else.
Right. Yeah. That for the most part people know that other people exist, and that there are other places that are trying to do the same thing you're trying to do. There's been a world power. And again, tough pill to swallow for the American haters out there, here and abroad.
If you have Western values, this is the best job that's ever been done running the world.
Right. Name the country who has done a better job of being the world power than the United States of America.
Okay, so let's just run down the list.
Dude, they sucked.
Colonial Britain.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh God, the sins and crimes of colonial Britain are terrible.
Yeah. France.
Yikes. Awful. Portugal, awful. Spain, awful.
Spain, don't get me started. I mean, terrible.
Go back to the Holy Roman Empire.
Yep.
The great empires of the Middle East, whether it's the Persians, what are now the Turks. Go back to the Mongols.
Yeah.
Greece. The Romans, the Greeks.
Greece and Rome. You're going to have to go back to Greece and Rome to have an argument for somebody on par with the United States. for being
and you know
for
who the
being
only
fairly
they still
benevolent.
they were benevolent, but they still kept slaves.
Oh yeah.
They conquered people ruthlessly,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a plebeian vote.
Mm-hmm.
So they got something in the decent column.
Right. No,
But it was still an aristocracy.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. But, I mean, you're going to have to go... I don't see how you make the list anything other than U.S. 1, Rome 2, Greece 3.
I almost... You can... I would argue Britain, too.
Well, maybe the Brits.
You know, they were awful, and you could argue a lot of their feelings at the time were misplaced and bigoted, but at the same time, the places that they colonized, are they better than when they found them? Or did they leave them better?
I'm a big England fan. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big England fan. I really
am. They largely leave them better than when they found them.
It was while I was getting my useless degrees in college. England is one of my specialties. You know, that English history is one of my specialties. Not that I'm some expert, but that was, one of my points of interest. And listen, you can argue that they're all awful, including the United States.
Well, it's like
just
democracy is the worst system of government ever, except all the others.
Sure. I mean, it's just, there's gonna be a world power. I don't really like that, and maybe
I'm American exceptionalist here, but I don't mind being the beneficiary of that selfishly.
I know it's easy to sit in a upper middle class house somewhere in Scotland and say the U.S. sucks. Would you rather Russia was doing it?
Would you rather?
Would you rather it was China?
To roll out UBI in its current state right now, you would kneecap the United States to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You would lose everything overnight.
Listen, U.S. is the world power right now.
And so the assumptions
Who
that
else is
UBI
capable
are
of doing
made
the
on.
job? Who else is capable of doing the job right now?
Russia and China.
Russia and China. Would you rather be one of them? I don't think people could.
And you could argue potentially if you wanted to conglomerate the EU. But at the same time, you know who the EU is? It's bleeding. It's Germany.
Yeah.
It's the Fourth Reich.
Right. It really is. It really is.
It's the Reich without the ethnic cleansing. Like, here's the thing.
Without the EU...
France is broke.
Yeah.
England's leaving.
Right.
You've got failed states involved. Like, Greece is, if it wasn't for Deutsche Bank, Greece would be a failed state.
Right.
Like...
Listen, another tough...
Deutsche Bank, a privately held German bank, is the only reason Greece isn't a failed state.
Dorf, I know
it's also the only reason it is a failed state.
I know you're going to agree with this, but another tough pill to swallow here is, listen, Europe's done. Europe is weak, and if it weren't
ripe for the taking.
when you analyze people's world power, or a country's, let's put it this way, a country's importance internationally, if it weren't for all the points that Europe gets for a rich history,
what's they got going for it?
They would be 6 steps below. Every one of those nations would be 6 steps below where they're at. Really, I mean, what does France have to offer that Brazil doesn't? Truth be told,
frankly, Brazil's loaded with oil. Mm-hmm. It's got a shit ton of natural resources that are untapped largely because you can't get to them because the infrastructure's not developed. Which, oh, by the way, China is paying for. Hurry up and get down there before China becomes the de facto client state. Idiots. Don't get me started about South American foreign policy. Anyway, or African foreign policy.
I mean, France has a forever veto in the UN. Why? Because they have a rich history. That's the only reason.
Because they got their dick kicked in World War II. They get a forever vote.
Right. Yeah, they sided with the right people, and they have a rich history. That's about it. And they do have a rich history.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
It's fantastic. But that's it. That's really the reason.
What have you done for me lately?
Right. That's it. I mean, the reason that they are equivalent to the aging politician in a system that doesn't have term limits. They are the Strom Thurmond or the Orrin Hatch
or the Debbie Stabenow.
Right, or the Nancy Pelosi.
One of your senators here in the fine state. She's no longer my senator, thank you very much.
No, she is not. You're a lucky man.
Well, I don't even know who mine are, quite frankly. But then again, I've only been a Hoosier for like 10 weeks, so give me some time.
Listen, I mean, countries like France, countries like most of Western Europe are there simply because they've always been there. That's it.
Because when people just stopped deciding to wage wars of conquest, that's where the borders were.
Right. And truth be told, like, we talked about this with many of the decisions the United States has to make aren't very popular, but they're the tough decisions. Somebody's got to make them. Many of the decisions England had to make back in the day were because they're an island. They didn't have anything there.
They ran it dry.
I mean,
They could have conquered you.
Oh my God, how terrible they conquest all those people. Well, what else are they going to do? There's only so many fish to eat. Come on, I mean...
And there's only so much coal in the ground.
Right. I mean, you gotta move on. Haven't you guys played World of Warcraft? I mean...
Excuse me, I'm a Civilizations guy.
Okay, Civilizations. Sim City. The resources are gone, man. Resources are gone. That's about it. But... I know.
And here's the thing: a lot of this. So, wrapping this back.
Wrap it up back with the UBI.
The assumptions that the United States could roll this out overnight are under the assumption that the United States could remain the world hegemonic power when they make all those changes. What I'm trying to tell you is they won't. Not at this current time.
See, you got me bummed out now, Dorf, because the only reason I was for it is if they can start it like tomorrow, because I'm broke and I could use $1,000.
That's the exact reason that we shouldn't do it. I'm kidding. No,
I'm not gonna quit my job either.
I ain't gonna lie, man. It helped me out tremendously. It would add about 40% to what I make.
Yeah, my kids need some new Nikes.
That'd be a de facto 40% raise for me.
Yeah,
I'd love it.
Yeah, be great.
I'd personally benefit from it, but the economic changes necessary to roll it out. That's even before we get to the how we pay for it, which is ultimately what any conservative is going to be dead on arrival with anybody who's dogmatically conservative, is because you don't have an explanation of how it can be paid for. Mm-hmm. You're never going to get to what it can do for people as a whole or individuals with them. And at the same time, the people who are, look at what all can it do for me, they don't care how it's paid for because they don't pay taxes anyway.
Right. And
effectively don't pay taxes anyway.
And truth be told, this would be a great system if it could.
In Utopia land.
And again, kind of like pardon the crass usage here, but if it would stop the whining. But it won't. I mean, no,
it never will, because
would welfare exist if people weren't whining? No, I mean that's.
It wasn't are you argue would welfare exist if it wasn't a vote buying scheme?
Right. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. So
it's a very Machiavellian thinking of you, sir.
So you don't want. UBI
could work. That's another criticism of UBI.
They'll want welfare too.
That's another absolutely valid criticism of UBI. So Andrew Yang gets elected, it's $1,000. What's to say the next guy doesn't? I'll give you $2,500.
Right.
I'll give you $1,500, $2,500, $30. What's it to stop the runaway inflation cycle, and then you end up in a failed banana republic? You could argue state capitalism or state communism in like Cuba or Venezuela. Mm-hmm. What's that to stop from happening?
Yeah.
American exceptionalism isn't that answer, because there's still some rules that you have to play by, and that'd be one of them. Inflation is terrible, and when you artificially inflate the money supply, that happens. So
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, my closing thoughts, truthfully,
it's a fairly decent idea. That
get rid of the other junk. I support it.
It can work. It can work within a capitalistic framework, guys. It's just ultimately it's a different tax and welfare scheme that exists within the capitalistic system. If you still are willing to do, welfare at all, mm-hmm. It's just a different tax structure.
Yeah. Well, and it's
and quite honestly,
it's not too dissimilar to the idea behind Social Security.
Yeah, you're gonna have to find the utmost. Are you libertarian extremists who say all welfare bad?
Which is me.
Yeah.
Which is me. That I oppose it,
from a
if I'm forced to
level,
choose
you
one,
do.
Mm-hmm. But if I'm forced to choose one,
will you at least acknowledge that it does something for some people?
No, I feel like this is better. This is better than welfare.
I'm talking
for sure.
to people that won't even acknowledge that.
Yeah.
That's the only, but that's because they're incapable of complex thinking. Anyway.
Well, I mean, a lot of people are benefited by things. I mean, that doesn't
Mean
necessarily
they're worth the cost.
Yeah, or
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
doesn't mean they're ethically proper either.
True.
Just because people benefit from
and
something.
You could even argue the ethics of, something that given as something earned, wealth confiscation, yada yada. You can do all that with UBI, and quite frankly, from a philosophical perspective, you're not wrong. Mm-hmm. It's just it comes down to what do people value, and there are plenty of people. I think one person who's returned to this room who doesn't agree with you that is something that is wholeheartedly valued. And you know what? Such is life.
Well, and listen, my thing is, a lot of people think that because I am a libertarian and because I do oppose taxation and oppose other things on a philosophical level, that I'm going to be the person that's constantly complaining about the way money is used. And I admit, I'm more of the opinion that, geez, once a corrupt government steals my money, I don't really give much of a damn what they do with it. I really don't.
It's corrupt already.
Yeah,
you have a problem with all of it.
You know, I mean, if somebody picks my pocket or takes my wallet and a stick up,
you're pissed that they took it. Not what they went and spent.
Yeah, and then I found out that guy that pointed a gun at me and made me give him his wallet. I found out that he gave half of it to charity and used the rest to better his family. I don't care. You stole my wallet, jerk. I really don't care what you did with it. I mean, quite frankly, when you stoop to those levels, I assume you spent it on meth, and that's great. Whatever, man.
I want my money back.
Yeah, I appreciate honesty to some degree. Again, because I'm not a rich guy, and B, because they tell you it's not the greatest idea. But I remember one time I was leaving a casino. Actually, this is Adam's bachelor party. Now that I think about it, I was leaving a casino in downtown Detroit. Guy came up to me off the street and he said, "Hey man, you got any?" He's asking everybody. He's like, "You got any spare change or some money?" And everybody's saying no, and I'm about to say no. He's like, "I'm just $4 away from a fifth, and I'm just really just trying to make it happen." I pulled $2 out of my wallet and gave it to him. I was like, "Well, this will get you closer." I was like, "You know what, man? I just appreciate your honesty. I appreciate your honesty. Dude's trying to get hammered." I feel like to me, in my twisted mind, in some way that made it better. It's like sure, buddy. Here's a couple bucks.
Well, humans don't like being lied to. That's a philosophical truth, a psychological truth ultimately.
Right.
All right. Anyway.
So much to the point that they will lie to themselves to make it seem as though they weren't lied to. Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Absolutely true.
God, that's way to end on a Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
All right. All right, you ready to go, Adam?
Yeah. So vote Andrew Yang, right? Everybody. That was the conclusion.
Yang Gang 2020.
Is that what it was?
No, I don't think so. You know what? At the same time, there's plenty of people who get into presidential races to push issues. And I'm at least willing to acknowledge that Andrew Yang is at least fulfilling that role. And like I told you ahead of the show, gun to my head, forced to vote for a Democrat in a primary right now, he gets my vote. It's between him and Tulsi, and Tulsi is a one-issue win for me there because
no Tulsi
expeditionary wars, and that's it. But I can't stand anything else.
Yeah, I mean, if you gun to my head, I'll this is totally off topic. Gun to my, I'll go Buttigieg. If you said
he's technically still the mayor of my current city.
Yeah, good.
Mayor Pete.
Yeah, so I mean, if you said
most people in town don't even know who he is. That's the hilarious part.
I believe it.
He's running for president, and the people in his own city don't know who he is. It's great. Anyway, that's gonna wrap up here.
We've got
what you got?
Anarchism next.
Anarchism. Okay.
That's gonna be the next one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anarchism Part 3.
Part 2.
Is it Part 2? Oh, that's right. We did. Yeah. Anarchism number 2.
Next up, Anarchism. That'll be a fun one.
And depending on we haven't picked the date for that yet, but it'll be probably
in August.
Beginning of August. Yep.
Okay.
So.
Sounds great, guys.
All right. That's going to wrap this episode up here, episode 13 of Politics of the Empire. It's on EmpireTheEmpireMedia.com. Like we said, Anarchism Part 2. Again, will be our next episode here in the beginning of August. Stay tuned. We will try and get that episode date out ahead of time so you can listen live, or you can always catch us again any place you're catching us here on the replay listening live, or if you're listening now, whether that be YouTube, SoundCloud, I don't know where else.
I want to plug too. This time slot next week will be the triumphant return of the best podcast in history.
Oh yeah! Congratulations, you guys are bringing that back.
Yes.
It's been on hiatus for what, about a year?
5 months, 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. So for Josh, I'm Dorf, and Adam there helping out us producing tonight. See y'all next time.
Thanks.